Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jessel Sidano,
And I am John Carl A. Velotindos. And ako ang Remy Jean Nakita.
and we are the Group 9.
Good afternoon, everyone. At this point, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to have to tackle lesson 2, which is gene therapy. So before we proceed to our discussion, may I present to you our objectives for this lesson. So at the end of this lesson, the learner should be able to define what is a gene, explain the process of gene therapy, reflect the effects of genes in our environment, and identify the importance of genes to the life of everyone. So I bet some of you here has a question in their mind. What is the relevance of our topic to our subject? So since science technology and society is an interdisciplinary field, so it focuses on the production and utilization of scientific knowledge and technological inquiry. So because of the massive advancement of technology over the past few decades, technology continues to advance in many ways to benefit human health, including medicine and other therapies. So let's proceed. First is heredity. So heredity is the passing of genetic factors from parents to offspring or from one generation to the next. So heredity is a biological process responsible for passing on the physical traits from one generation to the next. So say for example, both of your parents have a pointy nose and brown eyes. So if you happen to have them, so basically you inherited something from your parents. Next is heredity can be acquired in two different forms. First is asexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, it doesn't need the union of the sperm and the egg cell. And example for asexual reproduction is mostly in prokaryotic organisms, especially in bacteria and viruses. Next is in the form of sexual reproduction. So in this form, heredity can be acquired in the union of both male and female, wherein X and Y has been met. Okay, see? Next is gene. So what is a gene? So gene is the fundamental and physical function unit of heredity. So in gene, it is considered the basic unit of inheritance. Genes are passed from offspring and contain the information needed to specify physical and biological traits. So, ang gene is kung siya nag-contain sa ating mga genetic factors. So, for example, if sa gene sa imong both parents and na sila yung mga diseases daan, and for example, the gene that you inherit contains a certain disease, for example, high blood pressure and diabetes. Next is, it is responsible for the phenotype of an organism. Next is understanding gene therapy. So gene therapy is the expression of genetic condition is not always a simple amount of DNA present or the inheritance pattern of a single gene disorder. There are many factors that determine how one's genotype correlates towards phenotype. So basically, gene therapy allows doctors to treat a disorder by altering a person's genetic makeup instead of using drugs or surgery. So that's the basic explanation of understanding gene therapy. Next is penetrance. It refers to of a gene or a trait being expressed. So to sum up, it refers to the probability of gene or trait being expressed. So in some cases, despite the presence of the dominant allele, a phenotype may not be present. So one example of this phenomenon is the polydactyly. Kaya ito ang mga extra fingers or toes kasi gala natin makita ito na inahin nga phenomenon. So it measures the proportion of individuals in a population who carry a specific gene and express the related trait. Next is genetic engineering. So it is a process that uses laboratory-based technologies to alter or modify the DNA makeup of an organism. So genetic engineering, it is mostly those organisms that is genetically modified organisms. So one of the best example for this is corn. Di ba for example, ang corn before, kigagmay lang din na siya, kigagmay lang ang maniso. So since hindi man siya makaapa sa demands in a society, so di-modify nila ang genetic makeup sa organism. So after they modify, ginawa nila itong sinaon mga hybrid organism. So for example, ang corn. Imbis gamay siya, nagkadako na siya today. And second example is, kalitang sa koi fish, di ba, ang natural nila na color is like orange, di ba, mostly orange. So, since naman tayo genetic engineering in the laboratory, so they altered or modified the genetic makeup of certain fish, resulting to a certain colors nowadays. Okay, proceed, gene therapy.
So once again, good afternoon everyone. I am Regina Espadita, and at this juncture, I am going to continue about the gene therapy. So gene therapy. So the gene therapy has become a commonly used term in biomedical research because as we all know that gene therapy is one of the treatment of disease by transfer of genetic materials into the cells. So this process also involves the splicing the functional genes into the cells that contains defective non-functional genes for a particular trait. So if we say splicing, it means that to combine or to insert through the process of the genetic engineering. So gene therapy also replaces a faulty gene or adds a new gene in attempt to cure disease or improve your ability to fight disease. So ang gene therapy, mag-add siya of gene, especially sa kung ang cell nga, it has malfunctions. So diseased people cured by fixing their genes. So putting genes into plants and domestic laboratories is one thing that about using genetic engineering to modify humans, in particular human disease. So there are two different procedures that are being debated and discussed separately. First is insert foreign genetic material into the germs line into sperm or eggs where they could be passed onto succeeding generations. Second, it uses genetic engineering to insert foreign genes into the somatic cells and into any cells except sperms and eggs. So the role of genes in heredity. So as we all know that heredity is the information contained or within the genes located in the chromosomes of each cell. So the heredity contains genetic heritage or characteristics that pass down by our biological parents from the offspring. So example of this heredity are the eye color, the height, the complexion, and the hair color. So, ang chromosomes, it is located inside the nucleus, and the chromosomes are made of proteins and single molecule of DNA. So genes, it is also a gene that carry of information that determine your traits. So heredity factors known as genes are thought to exist as discrete portions of chromosomes. The term discrete it refers to the concept that genes is always located at the same point or locus on a chromosome. So, if we say discrete, naka-refer siya sa concept of genes na naka-located at the same point or in a chromosomes. So here are the common genetic disorder: Down syndrome, sickle cell disease, phenylketonuria, and the hemophilia. So the Down syndrome, it is a condition usually caused by an error in a cell division called the non-disjunction in the child's mental development, where it has a 21 copies instead of the 2 only copies of the gene. So second is the sickle cell disease. Sickle disease is the blood disorder that marked by defective hemoglobin that blocks small blood vessels that causing painful and damaging complications. The third is the phenylketonuria. So phenylketonuria is a rare inherited disorder that causes an amino acids that called phenylalanine to build up in the body that is unable to break down. The last is the hemophilia. So hemophilia is inherited bleeding disorder in which the blood does not clot properly or in a typical way that causes bleeding or bruising. So that's all in my part. So thank you.
So once again, good afternoon, everyone. By the way, I am Giselle Sidano, and I'm the next reporter. So my topic is all about effects of genes in our environment. So as we could know that genes are being inherited, but their expression can be modified by the interaction with the environment. So genetic traits are determined through the precise information of the cell gene structure. So there are a variety of factors of the environment that can actually alter effects of a particular gene. So here are the some example of the factors of the environment. The first one is the effects of light or chlorophyll production. So as we could know that light is the most common important thing when it comes to all organisms. And we could know that through light, plants can produce a chlorophyll, which is the green pigment. So through the process of light, plants could produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis. So as we could know that chlorophyll is the green pigment, so that is the reason that plants can produce chlorophyll through the presence of light. So without light, most plants produce only a light yellow pigment. So kung inyo mabantayan ang differences nila, pag ang plants gani nga na-expose siya sa adlaw, so green jud ang color sa iyang mga leaves kay because of the chlorophyll production. Pero kung matago na siya sa adlaw, muna siya magka-yellow, kaya wala mo kayo siya na initan. So, it means that as light intensity increases, chlorophyll production also increases, and in short, it is directly proportional to each other. The next one is the effect of temperature on hair or color in the Himalayan hair. So, as we know that Himalayan hair is the first scientific explanation of the scientists wherein they could found that when the weather is warm, the color of the hair is always white. So, ang hair mo good kay ang Himalayan hair, mo ni siya ang experimentuan sa mga scientists kung napajuday karang change of color sa ilahang panit if kung ang weather mag-change. So, kung sa warm siya nga weather, ang color sa rabbit kay white. Pero kung sa cold siya nga weather, ang color sa siyang panit kay dark siya. So it shows that there is changes of color. So the next one is the ptarmigan bird. So as we could know na ang Ptarmigan bird, pag init na siya, ang ilahang color, kaya nahimo na siya og brown. Pero pag abot na gani ang winter season, mag-pure white na siya ang iyahang color. So, inverse side, nga ang effects of light or the chlorophyll, nga it shows the role of environment, temperature, and the production of the hair color on the different species. So, kung sa ganitong effect of the environment, mo to siya ang effects of light or chlorophyll production, and then effect of temperature and hair color in the Himalayan hair. So, the next topic that we are going to tackle is all about gene mutations. So, before we will talk about gene mutation, let us talk the important basis sa gene mutation, and that is the nucleotide. So, as we could know that nucleotide is a DNA, is a polymer made up of repeating chemical, or it is the DNA which is contain a repeating unit. So there are three subunits of nucleotides. Those are phosphate base, deoxyribose, and nitrogen bases. So gene mutation is an alteration of the nucleotide sequence of the genome of an organism. May occur in somatic cells, which aren't passed to the offspring. May occur in gametes, eggs, and sperm, and be passed to offspring. So, muna ang gene mutation. So, as we could know na ang gene mutation is the alteration of the DNA sequence of a specific organism. So, pag ang gene mutation, mahitabo siya sa somatic cells, which is limited to the tissue's immediate surroundings to the mutated cells. Dili na siya mapas sa imuhang mga offspring o sa imong mga anak. Pero kung maabot na siya sa gametes or may occur in gametes ang gene mutation or ang gametes which is the eggs and sperm, so pwede to siya mapasa sa imuhang mga anak. So, gametes is a result of fertilization that produced by primary sex cell. So, mutation can be bad, which is leading to cancer, aging, birth defects, self-aborted embryos. So, as we could know that mutation may be harmful, for instance, for cancer. And then mutation can be beneficial also, making an organism survive, or they have a new version of proteins that help the organisms adapt the changes of the environment. And the next one is the mutation will have no effect on the organism. It's because there is the effect of the mutation is so small that you can even notice. So there are types of mutations, which are the substitution. So the first type of gene mutation is the substitution. So it is a change in one DNA base pair that result in the substitution of one amino acid for another in the protein made by a gene. So from the word itself, substitution, so ang iyang mga nucleotides o katong DNA sequence nila, mag-change to siya og pair. Diba? Ang adenine is to thymine, yung cytosine is to guanine. So, instead na ang i-pair nimo sa thymine kay adenine, ang i-pair na nimo sa adenine kay lain na siya nga parang DNA. And then, some example of substitution is the sickle cell anemia. The next type of gene mutation is the deletion. So this deletion is the changes the number of DNA bases by removing a piece of DNA. So from the word itself, deletion. So i-delete nila tong some parts sa imuhang DNA kay ilaha tong i-delete. So ibig sabihin na to, mawala na no sila. Example, karang CPGGAG. So ilang delito ng GG nila, so ang mag-produce na nila ng mutated nga cell or mutated nga DNA, CPAG. So dili na siya same sa original. So the next one is the insertion. So insertion, it will change the number of DNA bases in a gene by adding a piece of DNA. As a result, the protein made by the gene may not function properly. So, insertion, it is about adding a DNA. So it may have a big impact to an organism. It's because karang magdugang silang DNA nga instead nga ang kari nga DNA muna na siya ang karang ang ilang sequence pero ilang mang gi-insertion na ilang mang gi-insertan ang lain nga DNA so maka-affect to siya sa isa ka organism. So now let's proceed to another reporter. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Giancarlo Fadas, and I'm the last reporter of this topic. And my topics talk about the DNA code and the genetic code. When we see DNA code, it talks about the DNA is the oxyribonucleic acid that deals with the hereditary materials of the body and that all the living cells get composed. When we see DNA code, it composed of DNA is a complex molecules that compose of thousands of the repeating nucleotides. And DNA code has the particular sequence of the nitrogenous bases such as adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And DNA code is also used by this mechanism to move forward through specifically enzymes and other proteins through the process of the protein synthesis. The DNA code provides us the template for the functions of the formations for messenger RNA, which we call mRNA. The DNA code has a triplet codons, provides the informations necessary to code for the insertion of a single specific amino acids into the body proteins nucleotides. And DNA code also, it is not just a DNA. It is not merely a molecule with a pattern, but it is a code, a language, and an information. DNA information stored in a code made up of four of chemical bases such as adenine, thymine, and guanine and cytosine. Human DNA composed of 3 billion bases. More than 99% of these bases are same in all people. The order, the sequence of these bases determines the information available for building and maintaining an organism. It is similar to the way which alphabet appears in a certain way or in a certain to form words or a sentence. And that is DNA code. Now let's go for the genetic code. When we say genetic code, it is a set of code instruction for specifying traits for offspring assembled from their parents. And then the second is the information must reliability transferred from one generation to the another. And one is genetic code is also accordingly in the passage of these instructions from one generation to another generation. Genetic code is one of the example of the passing traits from one another to the another. It is like that the traits or the physical appearance of the mother or the father is reassembled from the daughter or the son. To summarize this topic, these topics talk about the genetic risk held from a variety of sources and predicting those risks can be more complicated than simply assessing disease inheritance pattern. And chromosomes and gene is one of the provide instructions of of the body. And heredity is the passing of traits from one generation to another generation. Thank you.